Good morning, everyone. This is Gavaskar Reed from the New York City Department of Education, Career and Technical Education Office. And today we are featuring none other than the legend, the man, the myth himself, Keith Kerman, Chief Fleet Officer from the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, or we say DCAS for short. If you are in an automotive program, without a doubt, in some form or another, Keith and his team has been very, very instrumental in either providing equipment for you guys or providing training for your teachers or providing internship opportunities and a number of other resources for you all. So just really want to appreciate and thank Keith and everything that he's done for us. I want to welcome, I see folks here from Co-op Tech, Alfred Smith, Grady, Tottenville, McKee, A-Tech, Edison. If I'm missing anybody, please let me know in the chat box. And again, if you are by a laptop, I really encourage you to feel free to use the box. We want this to be an interactive session. We have a very, very important figure before you. And this is your chance to put your best foot forward. And, you know, when I do a lot of these events and panel discussions, a comment that I hear come up a lot of times is that a lot of professionals say that I wish when I were a young person, I wish when I were in high school, I knew about certain opportunities. I knew about what was happening in the industry because it would have helped me to be better prepared. And you guys have an embarrassment of riches because unlike many other schools out there throughout New York City, they're not receiving the type of hands-on instruction you are. They don't have the opportunity to interface with professionals from the industry as you folks do. And today we're going to be talking about some developments within the automotive industry. We're going to talk about sustainability. We're going to talk about where the industry is heading so that as young people, many of you are 12th graders, you're going to be getting into the working world after June. You're going to have an idea of the landscape that you're stepping into. And for the 9th and 10th and 11th graders, also, as you're studying automotive education and as you're going through your different academic classes, you too will have an idea of where New York City is government, where New York City government is heading, especially in terms of our fleet industry, in terms of EVs, in terms of what are the different skill sets and what does the workplace, what does the industry look like so that you can better prepare yourself. So really, thank you again, Keith, for all that you do. And I want to give a big shout out again to all of our automotive educators. You keep the skilled trades alive. Lots of different districts out there in America wish that they had the type of shop classes that we do. So young people, again, thank you for your participation today. And I'm going to turn it over to Keith Kerman.
Okay, thank you very much, Bev, and good morning to everyone, and great to see you all. My name is Keith Kerman. I'm the Chief Fleet Officer for the City of New York and a Deputy Commissioner at the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, DCAS. If you've never heard of DCAS, we're kind of the general services of New York City. We manage the fleet, the energy program, the buildings program, the procurement program, and potentially important to all of you as you think about your futures, the civil service and hiring program for the City of New York and for all the different agencies. I'm a career civil servant in New York City. I'm in my 28th year and have worked 17 years at the New York City Parks Department, where I ran citywide operations from a building called the Arsenal in Central Park, and have now been working down at City Hall for 11 years. I'm here with our Deputy Chief, Eric Richardson, who's helped to coordinate a lot of our work with the high schools and the automotive program. And interestingly enough, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in my hour plus with you, Eric is the Deputy Chief Fleet Officer for the City of New York, but he's actually an IT professional. He's an information technology professional. So he didn't come out of fleet. I didn't actually come out of fleet. I'm an operational professional. I came out of park operations and city operations. The third person in our division is a fiscal management professional. So when you talk about fleet, there are a lot of different skill sets. And then when you get into the next round, there are people who are trained fleet professionals. But there are a lot of different skill sets that go into fleet. And we're going to talk a little bit about the future of fleet. We're going to talk about opportunities for all of you. We're going to talk about electric cars. I'm going to show you some videos. This is a virtual version of an in-person talk that I did at McKee High School a couple months ago, and that went really tremendously. So right off the bat, following what Gav said, we want you all to participate. So the best way to do that is to send questions in the chat. So if you have questions while I'm speaking and presenting, and you want to throw them out there and get it going, feel free to do that in the chat. Eric will try and answer as we go along. If I see something fun to answer, I'll interrupt and do that. And then after I'm done, we can take questions where you can kind of, chime in and go off mute and talk and have a talk. But while I'm presenting, feel free to do some chatting. Although, of course, always be polite, be friendly, be non-editorial, be productive. All right, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get going. Hopefully I will find my presentation. Okay. Which is not at the first page. Okay, so first, who are we? We are the New York City Fleet. We are your city government. New York City operates the largest fleet in the municipal fleet in the United States. It's over 30,000 vehicles. We're the police department, the fire department, the Department of Sanitation, the Department of Parks, the Department of Transportation. Each of the 5 agencies I just mentioned, which are providing core municipal services, right? Policing and picking up garbage and fixing the roads, cleaning the parks. Each in New York City is the largest of its version in the world. We have the largest police department, fire department, urban parks department, urban transportation department, all in the world. And so, we can help lead the way in a lot of interesting innovations, and we're going to talk about those today. So just the fleet size, again, it's 30,000 vehicles. The biggest fleet is at the New York City Police Department, followed by the Department of Sanitation, and then the fire department, transportation, parks, but you just see, the different fleet units. Now, as importantly for you, as you think about potential career opportunities, we are also one of the largest employers, if not the largest employer, of mechanics and fleet staff in New York State. We have 1,450 servicing professionals in all the different civil service titles that are listed below, from mechanic to auto service worker to rubber tire repairer to supervisor mechanics. We even have a carriage upholsterer in case you're looking for an offbeat kind of role. There's actually literally only one, and it stems way back from reupholstering carriages, and now they do kind of interior vehicle work and work on seats and things like that. The most immediate opportunity potentially in the automotive service program, in the automotive schools program, is for automotive service worker. That's kind of our entry exam into New York City government. And the good news for all of you who are in the automotive repair programs at the high schools, who are going to get those ASEs, those automotive service excellence certificates, that program, your graduation from this program, qualifies for the 2-year experience requirement in the civil service test for automotive service worker. So DCAS offers regular automotive service worker tests. Actually, you do not have to take a test. It's what's called experience and qualification. So it's actually E&E, and you just have to apply. And once you have a degree, you'll see that it says 2-year experience required. So for most people who are not in your program, you got to go, work in a dealership, work in a repair shop for 2 years. You do not have to. So, and that's a change that DCAS made to support all of you. So right off the bat, I want to let you know that, and you can, look up DCAS and the civil service program, or we can get you through Gav more information directly about that. But you have a potential pipeline right into New York City jobs, if that's what you want to do. If being an auto mechanic and pursuing that route is what you want to do, and we certainly encourage it. It's a great career, and you can make, you can come to the city government, make a really good salary, have tremendous benefits, serve the city, and do incredibly important work. So as Gav has mentioned, we've already been partnering a lot with your program, and and with the school. So we've been doing the summer internships, the paid internships, for many years, well over 10 years. And we missed the 1 year because of 2020 because of COVID. We were back last year at a really nice program. That's just a picture of kind of our ending ceremony. We had students working, and some of you maybe working at police, working at fire, working at sanitation and parks and DOT, DCAS, where we do a lot of crash and claims work. And it's been a great experience. And I know the New York City Police Department said how wonderful their students were this year. And that's certainly something we want to keep doing and encourage you to do. I know a little about what used to be called co-op ed and what's now career and technical education. Because I'm a little older now, I wasn't gonna try and have you guess who I was. But back when I was younger and had a head of hair to show off, I was in another state. I grew up in Massachusetts, but I did the same program. It used to be called co-op ed, but it was essentially you go out during school and you're getting real work experience and you're trying to prepare for work. And I was, in better shape then and a lot younger, but the same program that you're all in now, different version, different state, but essentially the same thing. Okay, so we also, in addition to the internships, we want to help you learn to be mechanics and learn this trade. So as you probably know, we already provide about 20 vehicles for you to work on and get experience with and dismantle and reassemble. We just provided a new Prius, not new Prius, an older Prius, but a new training vehicle to McKee High School. And many of your schools already have city vehicles that you're working on, and we're going to continue to do that. We've also are doing a lot of education and training, and we'll try and bring you and have the students and your teachers be part of that. We've just launched a new education program for electric vehicles for mechanics. And there's a picture of some of that. So as we expand our training programs, and especially I'm going to talk a lot about electric vehicles and sustainable vehicles, we'll try and incorporate you and give students the same opportunity to do that with our city mechanics. And of course, I've already mentioned it, but I'll mention again, we want to give you an opportunity to look for a potential career in city government or a career in the private sector, right? We want to help you if you want to become mechanics, you want to pursue the fleet or transportation industry. It's an extraordinarily dynamic industry. There's a lot of change going on. That's what I'm mostly going to talk to you about this morning. And it's really one of the drivers of what's happening in the country, right? Think about a transportation company I'm sure you've heard of called Uber. It didn't exist 10 years ago. It's now one of the largest companies in the world. Think about Tesla. Tesla just came out with electric cars in the last 6-7 years. It's now one of the wealthiest, most highly valued companies on earth. And that's all happening in just the last 5, 6, 7 years in the transportation industry. So we want to help you pursue jobs. You want to pursue New York City jobs, DCAS is the place to do that, or help you get connections to private dealerships, to private companies, to, in this industry, as well as pursue, if you want to go to Bronx Community College or pursue, a college and university route, there are opportunities to do that as well. Bronx Community College has a tremendous automotive program run by a longtime friend of mine named Clem Drummond, and we certainly can put you in contact with him. And I know a lot of people have done that program and really benefited from it. We also, one of the first things you might want to do, whether you're going to go into automotive trade or not, is get a driver's license. So there are some programs, I believe there are 7 of them throughout the Department of Ed. That offer driver's ed as a school program. And one of the interesting things is if you avail yourself of that opportunity, you will be learning to drive in an all-electric Nissan Leaf provided by us. So we've provided 7 Nissan Leafs to be part of the driver ed program at 2 schools. We've actually, one in Queens and one in the Bronx, we've actually provided solar carports to power them. So if you look at this picture, right? 0 emissions at the car. These are all electric Leafs. 0 emissions in the production of energy. This is not connected to the grid at all. This is completely freestanding power. It is tow and play. We drop it off. That's it. So, as we think about the big environmental issues that we're all facing together, and is going to be one of the major issues that you all face in your lives, whether you want it or not, climate change and environmental issues are going to dominate all of our lives going forward. We have an example at some of your schools already of clean transportation at the vehicle side, clean transportation of the production of energy, zero, fully autonomous, and it's sitting at some of your schools right now. So please take a look at the driver's ed side. Of course, learn to drive safely and always do drive safely and responsibly, but that's something also we're supporting you with. All right, so what I want to talk to you about is the fleet industry and what's happening with it. And I'm mostly going to talk about sustainability, about cleaner vehicles, but I'm also going to talk about a little bit about safer vehicles, what we call Vision Zero, our vision of making sure vehicles and people are safe as they drive every day. And it's a big issue in the city. I'm also going to talk a little bit about information technology. One of the really interesting things in this industry is that the traditional combustion engine, right? And combustion engines created the modern world, right? And I'm sure you all know the 4 basic components of the combustion engine. What makes it all happen? Intake, compression, ignition, and exhaust, right? So that basic engine powered the modern world, but it is no longer sustainable, right? We burned a lot of energy, a lot of gas, and a lot of carbon through that engine. We need to replace it. And what's exciting happening now is in the automotive industry, 3 things are happening, and they're happening in lightning speed, and they're moving beyond the combustion side of things. One is electrification, and we're going to talk a lot about electrification. The second is automation. And automation, we're going to talk a little bit about on the safety side, but there's this concept of much broader automation later. And the third I want to mention is, and it combines all of them, is information technology, right? Cars are becoming computer systems, and so is the training that's required to manage them. And I'm sure you're already starting to see that, but these cars are becoming very, very sophisticated at a technology level. We're trying to retrain mechanics. Tesla and many other models of cars now get uploads. They get updated like computers, right? They have to go through software updates. So think of that. Who would have ever thought of a car needing a software update on a regular basis? But that's where we are. So you really have this change in electrification in technology, and then a future of automation, but a lot of things happening in changing both what cars are and the business models around cars. And it's a very dynamic area. All right, so we are in, hopefully, we think, the age of electric vehicles. And just think about what's happening now, right? All these major companies pledging to go all electric. And this is really just in the last 4 or 5 years. GM going all electric. Amazon, 100,000 electric cars. Uber, all electric by 2030. Tesla is now the richest company in the world. How'd that happen? Volvo, all electric. Even the Porsche, which I'm sure all of you have a Porsche in your backyards. Probably not. I don't either. I have a little cheap Honda. But even they're going electric, right? The president of the United States took office, and one of the first things he did, he started driving in an electric pickup truck from Ford, right? This is a big change, and it really is getting a lot of momentum. Why electric vehicles? Why zero emission vehicles? A lot of reasons. One, and we're going to talk some more about this, but one, quiet, right? No, don't make a lot of noise. Two, they don't have as much to fix, right? You don't have a fuel system to worry about. You don't have a traditional engine system to worry about. You have regenerative braking, which is actually a more efficient braking system. There are simply less components. You're mainly focusing on the battery, and then the standard, the wheels and the lights in the mirrors, and obviously you have steering. But so much of what breaks down, so much of what flummoxes us, engines, fuel systems. I can't tell you how many Priuses we're having catalytic converters stolen on these days, right? And those are big jobs, about $3,000 of damage and a lot of work, right? There's no catalytic converter. You don't have to have an exhaust system. They're fast, right? So one thing, now I want you to all drive safely. So promoting that an electric car is fast is a double-edged sword. But the truth is they're really powerful cars. They have something called instant torque, right? When you turn your light on in your home, right? You go in your bedroom, turn your light on. You're not worrying about your light, or having a staggered process until your room is fully lit, right? You turn your light on, your room is lit. Well, in a car, in a combustion engine, you get 0 to 60 in whatever, 10 seconds or whatever. It's, it's chitty chitty bang bang, right? It's pushing up to a speed. In electric cars, you essentially have instant torque. You have that same electric process, which means they're really fast. They're much faster than regular cars. And I'm going to show you a video about that. And then charging, some of the concerns, charging is getting a lot better. Battery range is getting a lot better. Costs are starting to go down, especially in light duty. There's a real move. And of course, there are no emissions. So these are incredibly important environmentally. And we know that transportation is a big part of our environmental problems right now in the country and the world. And it's one of the growing areas of emissions. Still so many people in cars, so many people upgrading from sedans to SUVs that burn more. So there's a lot of work to do here. Okay, trying to advance my slide and it's not advancing for me. So I'm gonna have to figure that one out for a second. All right. Okay, so the New York City fleet is doing its part. So we want to be the greenest fleet out there. We want to lead the way. We have a clean fleet plan. Basically, we've committed to go to an all-electric fleet by 2035. And that's across 160 types of vehicles. We operate something of everything: garbage trucks, fire trucks, sedans, SUVs, pickups. New York City, on behalf of all of you, operates 300 agricultural tractors. Who'd have thought that? Tar kettles, Playmobiles, puppet mobiles, tanks, you name it, we have it. And we're actually trying to cut fuel use and emissions 50% by 2025, not far away. And you can check out that plan. So we already operate the largest electric fleet in New York State. We're about 3,100 vehicles. And if you caught a little bit of our press at the end of last year, we are expanding that. We have 1,000 vehicles on order, including our first set of Mach-E's for the police department. So we are looking potentially the next police car, I'll show that a little bit more, of the future is going to be a Mach-E GT version. All right, so just some pictures for fun. Our all-electric garbage truck, and that we just tested for a year, worked really well for collection. We have to take the next step now. We are about to buy 7 of them, not public knowledge, and we are going to be testing them for plowing. So we don't just have to pick up garbage with this truck, as you, I'm sure, know from just the snowstorm last weekend. We have to plow with them. So that's the next stage to make sure that we can plow. We are operating the world's only all-electric street sweeper. And interestingly enough, I've been told about half the street sweepers in America actually operated in New York City by the Department of Sanitation. So we're going to try and make those all-electric as well. I mentioned policing. So the first patrol vehicle for police, we have a lot of support vehicles. We have a lot of bolts in traffic enforcement support. The first patrol vehicle that was electric is that unit, and if you can see it, it's a Tesla. But the order we just made and announced just a few weeks ago is we're going to be buying about 183 Mach-E's, and they're going to be tested and assessed as potentially the police car of the future. And the Mach-E is an all-electric crossover unit. It's a really nice vehicle, and we have a lot of hopes that we could introduce an all-electric policing fleet very, very soon, and get emissions out of vehicles and still have a fast and impressive vehicle for our policing use. School buses. So New York City has passed a law that all school buses will be electric by 2035. If I could poll you, we should have done polls and I can have you guess how many school buses we have, but we have 10,700 school buses. 10,700 school buses. It's the largest municipal school fleet in the world. And we're going to go all electric. So this is some of the first, and my agency bought these for the Department of Ed. And hopefully, as you'll probably have graduated by the time we have these in scale. I certainly hope you will have. But soon, and as we go along, as you go to school, if you take the school bus, they're going to be electric units. We're also building out a lot of charging. So I talked about the solar carport, and you have those at a couple schools, including Thomas Edison. We're also building charging. So we are the largest supplier of electric charging right now in the state of New York. We have 1,070 ports, including a lot of fast charging. We just finished our first 100 fast chargers. And I hope you're seeing these. These are at Midland and South Beach in Staten Island, but they're all over the city. They're on Randall's Island, they're in Flushing Meadow Park. We're going to be building them out there in Central Park. If you go to the East Drive of Central Park, you'll see we have fast charging and level 2 charging, slower charging all over the East Drive. And we're going to be building them out throughout the city. A lot of it, about 11 of our sites are also open to public use. So if you happen to have an electric vehicle, your family has an electric vehicle, we're starting to expand the ability to help people charge those up. We're doing fun things like mobile charging. This is a charger on wheels, right? So in addition to you bringing your car to a charger, we're finding ways to bring charging to cars. And as we expand this program, as we do more electrification, we're going to need a lot of ways to power things and a lot of backup ways to power things. We're going to need to deal with what happens if there's a blackout, power loss, how are these cars going to move around. So solar is part of that, but we're going to be looking at other options. This is just a simple map of our charging today. And we're all over the place. And this is just your local town fleet, right? This is just our fleet program. So if we can build a charging network and pretty much touch every part of the city, and this is going to grow enormously. We have 1,070 sites now and 100 fast chargers. We are now funded for 1,776 fast chargers alone. So we're going to go from 100 to 1,776 fast chargers, building them all over the city. And that's just our program, the Department of Transportation, the schools, a lot of different programs. So we're going to see a lot of federal government. We're going to see charging everywhere in the city, everywhere in the country, and really supporting this change. All right, so electrification is in many ways the most exciting, get out of gas and fuel use altogether. But a couple other things I want to mention that we're doing to complement that. Hybrid vehicles are still incredibly important in the fleet industry. Here you have, a lot of our police cars are actually going hybrid. So until we get to all electric police cars, we are buying all hybrids. So that policy is moving forward. If we buy a police car and it's not electric today, it's a hybrid electric. And we've been buying hundreds and hundreds of those. Some of our garbage trucks are already hybrid electric. In fact, this Parks Department garbage truck is hybrid electric, and it also uses biodiesel, right? So you can combine approaches. You may not know that every ambulance in the city of New York is actually a hybrid plug-in ambulance. Today, we've been installing alternative power units so that they can operate as hybrid and plug-in. It's a little difficult to plug in right now, ambulances, because you don't want to interrupt the EMT as they go to calls. We're working on how to effectively plug them in, but they all have plugs. They all can be plugged in. We're still working on how do you make that work without interrupting the EMT. But that's incredibly important technology in the fleet side. And, ambulances are huge fuel users and very hard to maintain because they almost never turn off. Ambulances have to maintain the passenger compartments, the air conditioning and the refrigeration for the passenger, for the medicines, the compartment for the EMTs. So these are always idling. Ambulances are never turning off. So it's a huge fuel and maintenance problem. And we're helping to solve that through battery technology. We are also doing something that I love talking about, and I could do a whole hour with you and try not to bore you on biofuels. So, where we can go to electric, we are. But there are a lot of big trucks, specialty trucks, off-road equipment, snow melters, tar kettles, chippers, stump cutters, where we can't go to electric yet. Those models just don't exist yet. So what we are trying to do is get out of fossil fuel use and use biofuels. So we started with biodiesel, right? And you can see the little bottles, right? And every truck, every fire truck, sanitation truck today uses at least 5% and usually about 20% biofuel. And this comes from soybean oil, recycled grease, animal fat, other agricultural products. These are agricultural waste products, come from farms, and we have a great relationship with the soybean farmers of America and throughout New York, and then in the Midwest, in states like Iowa and Illinois, but also upstate New York, where they produce these farm products and soybean oil, and we can produce fuel with it. Biodiesel is what you see in the yellow, and biodiesel is its own spec. And biodiesel has some cold weather properties, some compatibility properties. It's hard to use high levels of biodiesel. When you go above 20%, it gets tricky. We're trying, but it gets tricky. To the left, you see that bottle? What color is it? It's clear. That is a fuel. It's called renewable diesel. It is 100% switch out fuel for fossil fuel. And it is the same specification as regular diesel. We've already used 1 million gallons of this renewable diesel, and we've put it in every type of truck, every model, underground storage tanks, vehicles, and it worked perfectly. It is a complete switch out fuel, but it has 60–70% greenhouse gas benefit. It has lower air quality emissions. It can be made domestically. It's renewable. It's not a fossil fuel. We're not digging this out of ground. And it's a potential switch out fuel. Right now, all renewable diesel is sold in the state of California because they incentivize it. They have something called a low carbon fuel standard, and they're incentivizing it. But there's work to get that low carbon fuel standard here in New York State. And this is, we have the potential to stop using diesel fuel, not just for vehicles, but for heating oil, for ferries, across the board today. So, while there are a lot of serious environmental problems, and they are, and we're facing them, there are a lot of technologies coming to bear where we could make real change, and we could do so quickly if we had the political will to do so. So I'm telling you here today that we can have zero emission vehicles powered by the sun. I have them at some of your schools right now, and we can get rid of all diesel fuel if we want to, and if we have the political will, using things like renewable diesel. So you can make progress pretty quickly, but we need a lot of political will, and that's part of the effort. All right, some other things I want to talk about, and then I'm going to show you some hopefully fun videos. EVs are lower maintenance and can save you money. So one of the interesting things is you have a return on investment, the bureaucratic, businessy term. You can save money buying an EV. We've already run electric vehicles for about 10 years. So we know the whole life cycle, from the warranty period to the post-warranty period. We're getting 60–70% maintenance benefit, less repairs, and less cost for our electric vehicles over their lives. And this analysis, which got some press, was done on basically 200 Leafs and 200 Bolts. So the all-electric GM Bolt and the Nissan Leaf that we'd operated for about 10 years. And we compare them, if you see the comparison, we compare them to even like models like the Prius. And the Prius hybrid is an incredibly maintenance efficient vehicle. So the Prius is a great vehicle, honestly. We operate 3,000 of them. But we were getting tremendous maintenance benefit even against the Prius, $893 to maintain it a year versus, look at the Leaf, $344. You're not fixing anything because there's nothing to fix, right? We still crash a few of them, unfortunately, but ultimately a lot of maintenance potential. All right, here's something you should know, and maybe you already know it because I'm sure your teachers have already imparted this, but I want to remind you. While you're learning about how the combustion engine works and you're learning to fix combustion engines, and I will concede that the combustion engine created the modern world. It is an incredibly inefficient way to power something. 70–80% of all the energy produced when you light up a gallon of gas to power a vehicle is wasted. It does not move the vehicle forward. It's wasted in heat and exhaust. It is an incredibly inefficient way to power things. Now, it's what we used, and obviously we burned a lot of gas and we did a lot of stuff with it, but it's not a great way to do it. I teach a version of this class to like elementary schools, and I do a little pizza game, and I put up a picture of 10 pizzas, and I say, if I bought 10 pizzas and brought them here, and then immediately threw 7 in the garbage basket and fed you 3, would any of you, think that was a great thing I was doing? And they all say, no, let's eat the pizza. And I say, but that's what you do every time you turn on your car at home. And that's what we do. It's an incredibly inefficient. This isn't Keith Kerman saying it. This is the federal government. You know, I took this from the U.S. Department of Energy, but you can get this, and I'm sure you're learning the same. So electric vehicles, you do not have this tremendous inefficiency. You're using the energy that you're bringing into the battery to actually power the vehicle. Okay, there's a tremendous debate that goes on in the United States on something called CAFE standards. CAFE standards are corporate fuel economy standards. How fuel efficient is your vehicle? The federal government just announced 2 weeks ago, and they were proud of it because it's actually the best rate ever, that the United States achieved 25 miles per gallon on average for new light duty vehicles and light trucks in America. The New York City fleet, your taxpayer dollars pay for, has been required by law since 2005 to report the CAFE standard, the equivalent CAFE standard for our fleet. We've been over 100 miles per gallon for 4 years. And we don't get specially designed government vehicles. We buy from companies I'm sure you've heard of: Ford, GM, Mitsubishi, Toyota. We just buy Chrysler. We just buy the fuel efficient models. They're all in the same dealerships. Anybody could buy the fuel efficient models. We just choose to. So again, can we clean up transportation emissions? Can we go to zero emission powered by the sun? Yes, we already have them in your schools. Can we get out of diesel fuel while we wait to do electric and go to biofuels? Yes, renewable diesel exists. We just need to build it up. Can we achieve enormous increases in fuel economy? Absolutely, we're doing it today. We're at 100 up plus, right? We're 4 times what America achieves. And can we do the ultimate thing we're trying to do environmentally to clean up the air that we all breathe, to deal with the global climate change issue and the blanket on top of us? And that's what it really is, right? It's a blanket. It's simple. It's not too complicated to understand global climate change. We're putting a blanket of carbon dioxide and methane in the atmosphere, and it's heating us up, period. It's as simple as that, right? If I put a blanket on you, you might thank me if you're cold. If I put another blanket on you, you might thank me if you're really cold. If I put 30 blankets on you, you'll want me out of your face, right? And you're going to be sweating away and saying, what are you doing? Well, that's what we're doing. We're putting a blanket of carbon and methane in the atmosphere, and it's trapping heat in the earth. That is global climate change, as simple as that. And we have to stop doing it. So can we do it? Yes, we are burning less fuel. I'm running a larger fleet burning less fuel. We're doing more miles and doing it on less fuel. We have a lot more work to do. City fleet's got a lot more work to do. And we have our starts and stops, but we can make progress on this. And obviously, as you learn this industry, this is what I hope all of you, if you choose to stay in the automotive industry, that you're going to be part of. All right, I want to show you something fun. I told you electric vehicles are fast. Now I will try to prove it to you. This is a video of someone named Eric Ritter. And Eric Ritter is a Department of Sanitation mechanic. He's a person who went to an automotive high school. And his day job is he works in the chassis shop and does all kinds of like special fabrication repairs and repairs on sanitation trucks and welding and machinery. His sideline is racing, not just electric vehicles. I wish it was only electric vehicles, but his sideline is racing electric vehicles. And he actually just broke, just a little while ago, the speed record, the world speed record, and I'm going to prove it to you now.
Feel stuck and need a loan? Move to SoFi.
Keith, we're still seeing your PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, you're not seeing the video?
No. You have to go back to share screen, Keith, and select a window.
Oh, hold on. Oh, let me stop this. All right, explain that to me. I go to
with it share screen, you click on that arrow, and then you look for the window that has the video in it. And then
thank you. That's why I keep an IT professional around. All right, can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
We see it.
All right. Let me Oh. All right, so that is a New York City mechanic. Now, it's something about, electric cars accelerate very fast. They actually, even though, of course, he was being aided by nets, they really do decelerate very quickly, too. You do have to get used to, instant torque actually operates the opposite way, too. It'll decelerate, it'll lose power very quickly. You have to get a little used to how that actually works when you're driving one. Okay, let me go back to my presentation. Hopefully this will come back up for me. And so I actually want to go to another video, and there's a driver view, there's a spectator view there. I'm not going to show it to you because I want to get to this video as well. So this video was done by a friend of mine named Kaya Sanan, who is a videographer, and was meant to kind of to show some of the promise of what can be done environmentally. And it's a really great video I wanted to share with all of you. We debuted it at a DCAS event a number of years ago, and I'm going to show to you it's about 6 or 7 minutes, and then we've got about another 10 minutes of conversation, and then we should have plenty of time for questions.
30 seconds and counting.
And I have to do the same sharing. So let me, can you see the video?
Correct.
Thank you.
Recorded field.
Is there audio, Keith?
Yes, can you not hear it?
Okay, I hear it now.
Oh, because I had muted my phone. My apologies. Okay, I hope you like that. We've played that in a lot of places, and I just think it's a great kind of fun and spirited video about a problem that's extraordinarily important. So I put it in the chat, but it's worth repeating. As the video outlined how all those power resources were going to be exhausted, that's all within your lifetimes. All of you are going to witness that, and hopefully all of you are going to be around at the end of the exhausting of those resources. So hopefully we will have switched out and replaced and gone to a new way to power our lives before then. So I'm going to take a few more minutes to talk to you about a couple other things. One, so we have other information about sustainability. We have a brochure that we can get out to your schools, and Eric will do that. We put out a lot online, and we have our own website, and we do a weekly newsletter. So there's more information and resources. I want to talk just for a few minutes about two other important areas that we're trying to transform vehicles. I'm not going to go as in-depth because I really wanted to stress sustainability in electric cars, but there's also safety. And so we've partnered with the United States Department of Transportation, the Volpe Center, which is like the think tank at the United States Department of Transportation, to do what we call a safe fleet transition plan. So we want not just the most fuel efficient vehicles, but we want the safest possible vehicles. We have this whole plan. That's what it is. I don't have time to go through all of it, but we're trying to mandate the best in safety that we can. And that's what tier 1 is. Tier 1 is things like automatic braking and high vision cabs. I'm going to show you a little bit about that. Heated mirrors, side guards, telematics. I'm going to talk more about that. But all the different safety that we're trying to put into vehicles. So I'm sure you've all done bumper cars, right? And bumper cars, fun game. And you hit each other and it's fine because you've got padding. Well, we have the ability now through technology to have cars essentially shield themselves from hitting into other cars. You can create virtual bumpers around cars. So even if you're trying to smash my car, the car will slow itself down and not let you do it. Cars can communicate with each other. And we just finished a whole what's called V2V, vehicle to vehicle, and V2I, vehicle to infrastructure project with the federal government, starting to get vehicles to talk to each other and implement safety. There's something called intelligent speed assist. And that's technology that says if you're in your car and you're speeding, your car will alert you. Hey, you're speeding. It'll noise, shake. And then if you don't stop speeding, it'll just slow the car down. We can have technology where the cars just aren't allowed to speed, aren't allowed to do dangerous things, where if you're drunk, the car won't let you ignite it. The ignition won't work. So there's a lot on the technology side we can make to make cars safer. I want to show you just a couple. One, you see these trucks, they all have something on them that very few Americans have ever seen, sadly enough. And it's called a side guard. It's that railing. See those rails? There are different models. If you go to Europe, you go to South America, every truck for decades has had a simple side guard. It's not complicated technology. It's just to make sure that a pedestrian, a child, a bicyclist, a motorcyclist, even a small car, can't get caught in the back wheel. And we know that about 6 to 8% of people who die in the city, that's how they die. in car events, in truck events. They get caught in the gap. You know, one of these big trucks takes a right-hand turn on your narrow street in the city, right? You know they're going to overhang the curb. They have to. They're too big. And if someone is there, so we put in these side guards, and we're trying to make this standard. We have the largest program in the country. We're trying to mandate it. We're trying to expand it. You know, when a big truck manufacturer makes a truck in England, they put on a side guard. When they sell the same truck in America, they take it off. We want to change that. How a cab is designed itself, right? So if you've ever driven a truck, and we're doing, you know, we can get you behind the wheel if you're interested. Look at the left-hand picture. That's a traditional truck. Most trucks in America are designed what's called a conventional truck. See how the engine is in front of the driver? You cannot see the ground. If you're a normally heighted driver, you can't see the ground for 25 to 30 feet. You're blocked. The engine's in front of you. So you can't see if a child's right near your car, a bicyclist is on your left. You can't see it. Trucks don't have to be designed that way. There are things called high vision trucks, and every truck can be designed this way. Look at the right. In the right-hand picture, the engine is underneath the driver, and they can see everything. They have perfect visibility, right? We need trucks to be designed, especially when you're operating in a big city. If you're on the highway, either truck is fine. If you're on an interstate, who cares which truck you have? But when you come in a big crowded city like New York City, you're driving in Brooklyn, you're driving in the Bronx, you can't see squat on the left hand. You can see everything on the right. We need to change how trucks are designed, and we're working to do that. Oh, by the way, look at the Department of Transportation did, if you look on the left, they did analysis of the impacts on safety. 39 out of 4 in these simulations, these were computer simulations, actual people were not killed. 39 out of 45 people in these simulations with the truck on the left died. No one died in the simulations with the truck on the right. We should not be letting people die because we don't want to change the design of a truck. And electric trucks are especially able to be designed this way because there is no engine. We're also doing a lot with technology, surround cameras. Until we get to high vision trucks, we can put in surround cameras so a truck driver can see all around the car and get, see all those driver impairments. So we're trying to do that. We're doing a lot on tracking vehicles. So this is a screenshot of one moment in time of the New York City Fleet's tracking program for city vehicles. We run the largest tracking program for vehicles, public vehicles in the United States. We're currently tracking 23,000 vehicles here at DCAS. We have another 10,000 vehicles at the police department that are live tracked, but not at DCAS. It's the largest public tracking program. So this is a screenshot, right? Fleet is everywhere, right? There is a city car everywhere in New York City. And we operate it out of what we call our command center, the FORT, the Fleet Office of Real-Time Tracking. It's here on the 21st floor of DCAS. Maybe someday we can give you a tour and give you a live demonstration. So we can, if Eric ever wants to work that out with different schools, we'd love to have you here and show you our offices and show you how the FORT works. But if you see the mapping on the left, we are monitoring and tracking what's going on. And there's an enormous amount that can be done with that. I'll show you a couple examples. One, fun, we can go after people who steal our vehicles. So someone stole a vehicle in New York City and decided they were going to take it to Virginia. Unfortunately for them, it was a Saturday, and we were watching them as they were speeding to Virginia and getting all kinds of alerts. My kids were enjoying it. I had 2 boys, and we had a fun time for 2 hours watching the truck go to Virginia. When they got to some gas station in Virginia, through coordination of the New York City Police Department, the state police of Virginia arrested them and got back our vehicle. So one benefit. Getting people to change their habits, right? The most dangerous habit is excessive speeding. We've actually dropped excessive speeding in the city fleet by more than half through tracking and alerting and reminding and calling people. And we still have more to do, right? We should have no excessive speeding, but we've made enormous progress in reducing excessive speeding and crashes that go on with that through tracking. So a lot that is happening on technology. There's this big move happening in your fleet industry. right? Electrification, the electric battery, the electrical trade, IT technologies, safety technologies. We are really at the moment of a transformation of the transportation industry that's a positive one, but it's going to need a lot of work, a lot of innovation, a lot of passion. We hope you will bring that to it, be the next generation that kind of brings this change to light. You can get a lot more about us at our website. We do a lot of newsletters. We put out a lot of reports. I want to thank you. We're at the 1 hour. I want to thank you for listening, for participating. I want to encourage you in your careers. I'm a public high school student from another state, a state with, used to have some pretty good sport teams lately. And I went into government and went to the fleet industry in this field, and it's done well for me. I encourage you to pursue the same. And we are available if you have questions or anything you want to ask. If you want to chime in live or do that in the chat, Gav, I guess you can organize that, but happy to take any questions or answer anything I might. And again, I want to thank all of you for the time. I want to thank your teachers. I want to thank Gav and the Department of Ed for letting us do this.
Yeah, thank you, Keith. So to students and staff, feel free to either raise your hand using the Zoom icon, or feel free to use the chat box. One of the questions that came up, Keith, is you made mention to biofuel and biodiesel a couple of times. What exactly is that? How is that different from gasoline?
Okay, so gasoline is a fossil fuel. Gasoline, diesel is a fossil fuel. It's quite literally dinosaur fuel. It's fossilized fuel that's dug underground. It's underground and we unearth it, right? And part of the environmental issue that we have is we're taking all this carbon that's literally been under the ground, right? You see those big rigs out in the ocean and they're digging for oil. They're taking carbon that has been under the ocean, under the ground in Texas oil wells, and they're unearthing it. They're bringing it up. Right? No different than if you went to your home, if you had a basement in your home, you decide, I'm going to take all the stuff I've been storing in the basement and I'm going to bring it to the first floor. Well, then your first floor will be a mess. That's why we have a basement. And so that carbon is all being pushed into the air. And that's fossil fuel. So biofuels are not fossil fuels. They come from what's called renewable feedstocks. They're essentially farm products. And you grow, say, we'll talk about soybean plants. You grow soybeans at farms, and you grow the plant and for the soybean, for the food and for the feed, right? So it's the soybean. You're trying to grow soybeans, and soybeans, you can eat them, animals eat them, it's food and feed. But the soy plants actually have oil, the soy oil, and it's a byproduct, it's a waste product. Or you can buy it like canola oil and cooking product. So that oil can be a fuel. And that's a renewable process, right? You grow the plants, and when you grow plants through photosynthesis, the energy in the carbon is grown. Then you burn it as a fuel, but then you grow another set of plants and you bring the carbon right back down. It's a cycle. So you're not unearthing all kinds of carbon that stays in the air. You're taking carbon down into plants and through soybean, through plants, and that's what trees do, right? Trees capture carbon. You're burning the fuel, and then you're bringing it back down. So it's a cycle. So you're not keeping all that carbon up in the atmosphere. You're growing it, you're bringing it down, you're burning it, you're growing it, you bring down. It's called a renewable fuel, and it's already a waste product, right? When farmers plant soybeans, they're going to have to do something with these plants and this oil. So they can use it as waste, or they can reuse it as fuel. And we want to see it used as fuel. That's called renewable fuel.
Excellent. Thanks, Keith. All right. What exactly is the difference between working for a local shop versus a car dealership versus working for a city government?
Well, they're all different employers, right? So, take an example like Midas. Midas is a local repair shop. It's not a family owned, it's obviously a franchise, but Midas is a repair shop, and anybody can bring in their vehicles and get them repaired. And look, these are good careers. Obviously you got to see what anyone pays and what their benefits are. But, local repair shops, my Uncle Sam was at his own repair shop, and I grew up watching him fix cars, and he, raised a family, and it was a good career for him. Dealerships mostly deal, and so now when you go into dealerships focus mostly on their own vehicles, right? So in a local repair shop, you're working on whatever comes in the door, whatever makes, whatever models. A dealership, if you're at a Honda dealership, then you're working on Honda vehicles. Same thing though. I mean, you're learning the automotive trade, you're producing, you're doing PMs and repairs and inspections. Again, you got to look at what the salary, what the benefit plans are. In city government, obviously it's a little different. You're a civil servant, you're not in the private sector. Generally, I mean, and this might not be true in the automotive industry, actually. Normally, I would tell somebody in city service, you're going to make a little less on a salary, but you're going to have better benefits, way better pension. And of course, you're serving the public. You're doing important things, right? Fixing somebody's neighborhood, civic is great. It's not the same as taking care of the city's ambulances that are, responding to a pandemic right now. In the automotive trade, though, the salaries are actually really good in city government, right? A city government mechanic makes more than most other mechanics, maybe not airplane mechanics or certain specialty mechanics, but a full city mechanic makes as much as anybody in this industry. So we aren't, frankly, just a better employer at the level of benefits and pension and feeling good about what you're doing. You're fixing police cars and ambulances and fire trucks and parks vehicles that are supporting the city. But frankly, we're the best employer. We're just paying more. So certainly I encourage you on that route. Not everyone wants to work for the city. Not everyone wants to work for dealership. You got to see what you want to do. But I think if you want to be a mechanic and join us, again, we have 1,400 techs and they're really good careers and you're doing good work, right? You're supporting the city every day and it can be tough work, right? What we learned during COVID, transportation and fleet professionals are essential employees. They're emergency responders. A lot of mechanics and supervisor mechanics lost their lives during COVID serving the city. My deputy, Lennon Fierro, who used to coordinate these programs, was one of the first city employees to lose his life to COVID. And he was working all during it, as we all were. So, you're also playing an important role to the life of the city if you join us.
Yeah, very, very good, Keith. And it's actually, to our automotive students, DCAS has from time to time openings for their automotive service worker examination. So I'll be sending that link to your teachers, and I want you all to just keep up to date with the job listings on DCAS's website. It takes a while for the results to come through. What I tell a lot of young people is if you can get a job from a local shop, go ahead and take it. If your ultimate sights are on working in city government, make sure you do the exam and you can then just do other things during the time, all right, for the time being.
So Jeff, we have
yes.
2 training questions and we have 2 sustainability questions. So let's stick with the training questions for now. Keith, there's a question about what type of training does technicians who work on electric vehicles get and how often are they trained? And then there's a follow-up to that. What is the future for electric vehicle technician training? And is there going to be a need and an increase for EV technicians?
Okay, and I was just looking, great questions. All right. So one, if you check out our newsletter, and I hope you will, this week's newsletter, we talked about some EV training that we were doing for city mechanics with General Motors. And we're going to be doing a lot more of that. And I'd like to introduce some of that to you if I can find ways to get some of your teachers and you all as students as part of these courses. So yeah, it's absolutely true, right? As we bring in these new technologies, we need to train mechanics into how to maintain the batteries, how they work. Some of the training focuses actually on these communication networks, right? These IT networks that are becoming so prevalent in vehicles and especially electric vehicles. One thing you should all know, and for your own safety, even or this early, if you encounter an electric vehicle that is in a crash, there's extra safety you have to do about that battery, right? So those are big batteries. These aren't the small volt batteries where you're talking about like a car battery. These are very powerful, high kilowatt batteries. If one of those is live and damaged, it can electrocute you in a collision. So there's very specific safety protocols on how to essentially disarm the battery so that you can tow it, service it, move it, even as an emergency responder, do life-saving within it. So that's part of the training. So yes, we're going to be expanding and doing a lot more training. We're going to be offering that to our techs, and we did a little bit this week and did a newsletter, and but we're going to be doing a lot more of that. And yes, we're going to need to train a whole generation of technicians on electric and hybrid technologies. I mean, the good news is these vehicles should break down less, right? So in time, hopefully there'll be less problems for mechanics and less workload and breakdowns. But certainly we're going to need to learn how to maintain them, understand battery technology and how batteries work, understand these communication networks that are used. It's as much IT as it is battery as it is vehicle, and do that training. So we're launching that now, and to the extent we can offer any of that and get any of you to participate in it, we'll try and do that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Keith. And I encourage the students, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to click on the raise hand icon that you see at the bottom of your screen. Keith, some of the students want to know, there are tons and tons of different gasoline powered vehicles on the road. What exactly is going to happen to these vehicles as there's a transition to EV vehicles?
Well, it's a great question, right? I suppose in an ideal world, they would be decommissioned completely. And there are sometimes government programs where some of the federal government benefit programs where they give you offsets require you to prove that you dismantled the gasoline car. In a lot of other cases, they're sold and they might, I buy an electric car, but I sell my current gas car into a used car market. Used car market is, in fact, extraordinarily hot right now. And it's going to get a few additional years of life. So, most people are not going to give up economic value unless somebody pays them to do that, right? If government says buy an electric car and we'll offset the costs and get rid of that car you have and destroy it, then fine, as long as the government offers that as a benefit. Otherwise, people are going to, they're going to sell their used car and try and get whatever value. That's just the way it is. That said, it's a transition. The key is to begin that transition and get electric and hybrid cars going. Ultimately, these older vehicles will fall by the wayside. They get too old. They can't be maintained. They're, how many 1960 vehicles you see out there, 1970 vehicles, even 1980 vehicles, right? So I wish I could tell you these gas cars would just disappear tomorrow. They won't, right? I'm above the Brooklyn Bridge right now in my office, and I'm looking at gas cars. But this transition is happening.
Yep. All right. Again, for the latecomers, we have Keith Kerman, Chief Fleet Officer from Department of Citywide Administrative Services. We're talking about electric vehicles. We're talking about sustainability within the automotive and fleet industry. Keep the comments and the questions coming. So Keith, some of the students want to know, I've spent the last 3 to 4 years studying automotive technology. I do want to do something hands-on, but I'm kind of bored with working directly on cars. What exactly is your advice for me?
Well, there's a lot you can do. I mean, first off, you can do anything you want, in the world if you work hard and you care and you're focused, right? So, if you've developed great habits and passion and commitment and in the automotive side, and you want to go do something else, you want to go be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, look, skill sets transfer, right? The most important things in the world are having skills and a set of habits and values, right? Working hard, caring what you're doing, be attentive, be detail oriented, be serious, you'll do well. That said, if you want to stay in the transportation world, but not necessarily as a technician, it's a really interesting time, right? So we have a lot of people who work in dispatch, in fleet coordination, in fleet management, in administration, in auto parts management. There's all these kind of job and career opportunities at these car share companies that are developing. So the fleet industry is much more than just technicians, right? And again, like I said, I came out of the operational side of the world, right? My entree to vehicles was managing their use of the vehicles, right? I wasn't originally a mechanic. I did park operations. So we were using garbage trucks to pick up garbage and cleaning the beaches with beach rakes and beach wagons. And my entry into fleet really was in coordinating the operational use of the vehicles, but then, you know, fixing them became pretty important. And I ended up spending most of my time in maintenance and repair operations. Eric, his entree into fleet is information technology. He's an IT professional. He worked for the IT agency for the city and then moved into fleet. So there's a lot of really interesting things in the transportation industry. You don't have to be a tech. Being a tech is incredibly helpful. Understanding how vehicles work is incredibly helpful, and that's going to help you if you're working in fleet coordination and dispatch and in car share or fleet share. There are a lot of startups. There's a lot of interesting jobs that are out there in rental companies and dealerships and in automotive manufacturers. So you certainly can do a lot in the transportation industry. And there are a lot of roles and jobs out there these days. You don't have to be a tech if you don't want to. That said, again, if technical skills are incredible skills, right? These aren't skills that go away. Being handy at repairing things and fixing things, you can go into other skill trades. They're just great skills for your life. And so look, I mean, you know, having an automotive background and understanding how things work is always going to help you. We have created in the last, and by the way, it's only in the last like 150 years in human life, we've created an incredibly mechanized world. Everything's mechanized. I'm looking outside at these huge buildings, this highway, all these cars. These things did not come in nature, right? And they weren't around 150 years ago, 200 years ago, right? They're still new in the core. Human beings have been around for over 1 million years. All this stuff has only been around for a couple hundred. So we have a mechanized world, and having your kind of skill sets is always going to help you.
All right, sounds good. All right, Fernando wants to know, he says his favorite part of working on cars is actually dealing with the electrical installation, working with LED lights. Are there career opportunities where that's just the focus, doing the electrical wiring as opposed to working on other parts of the car? Is that a thing that exists, or would you have to learn additional skills in order to have a career?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to go back. We have an electrician automotive title. So you could, and I'm going to try and just reference it back in my early slide, and so don't mind my scanning these slides. But we have an electrical automotive title specific to electrical work. It should be, let's see if it's listed. Yep, electrician automotive, automobile. So you can go right into, of course, you could always be an electrician too. And that's a great skill set. So I'll tell you, we did this training last week with GM, and I wrote a little bit about it, and hopefully you'll check out our newsletters, and we're happy to send them to you. They're all public record. And one of the interesting issues that came out, we did a survey with mechanics. And the two things that the city mechanics were weakest on in the survey were electrical wiring skills, and then all these communication network skills, the IT skills. So that's where we needed to boost up. And that's actually, we are about to do some focused trainings to kind of update some of the skill sets in those two areas. So yeah, I mean, again, as we electrify vehicles, and this is definitely happening, it's happening in New York City, it's happening in the world, you know, electrical interests, electrical skills are going to be at the top of the list.
Okay, Julian wants to know, is there a specific certification that I need in order to work on a hybrid or electric vehicle?
Well, there is an ASC for a hybrid electric. I don't believe it's currently taught at the high schools or you know, given out as part of the curriculum there. We've been trying to push that along and like to see that happen. But there is an ASC for hybrid electric. That said, a lot of the mechanics, most of the mechanics who work on hybrid electric systems here are learning them through experience and through trainings that we are offering, right? So, you know, we have something like 6,000 hybrid and or electric vehicles now. So most mechanics are getting hands-on training, learning it as they go along, getting trained by other mechanics, taking some of our courses. So you don't have to have a degree to be able to work either in the government or in a dealership or in a shop on hybrids, but there is an ASC for hybrid electric, absolutely.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments?
I don't know. McKee had us going with questions for like an hour.
I have dropped some links into the chat, both for the newsletter as well as the New York City jobs link. For those of you who are interested, you can click on those and you can look at stuff. And obviously Keith's email is in the presentation that he provided. But there are some links here that should be helpful.
All right, Alfred Smith, Grady, Tottenville, Co-op Tech, Edison, ATech. Any questions? Okay, Julian wants to know, is the civil service exam open to us as students?
Once you graduate. Because it requires 2 years of experience. However, like I mentioned, your experience requirement is satisfied just for you all, and DCAS, and the DCAS commissioner did that. I do want to recognize Force Mayor Adams and DCAS Commissioner Don Pinnock, who ran our human capital and actually when she ran human capital here in the civil service system, she made the change. She's now the commissioner of the agency. But yeah, so we made a change so that instead of those 2 years of experience, your graduate diploma and your ASE certification qualifies. So effectively, once you've graduated and you have that ASE, you can apply.
Yeah.
And again, it's an E&E, so you don't actually have to take a test. To be a full mechanic, you got to take a very hard written test and a very hard hands-on repair test. So to get to the full mechanic job, ASE is the first level, and there's really 2 levels of ASE. The automotive service worker has 2 levels, level 1 and level 2. And it's meant to correspond to B and C mechanic that you'll see in the private sector, A, B, and C mechanic. So auto service worker, it's in what's called an experience and qualifications test and resume test. You don't have to take a test. You're just submitting the application and your degree qualifies for the experience. To be a full mechanic, you have to take a pretty hard written test and a pretty hard practical test. So you're going to need to know your stuff to become a full permanent mechanic for the city, but you can get in as an auto service worker, get that experience, work on city vehicles for for how many years. And then look, most people who become mechanics here start as auto service workers.
All right, I don't see any other questions. All right, so that'll do it. Thank you, Eric Richardson and Keith Kerman. Thank you both for your time today, and thank you for all of the students that participated. Thank you for submitting your questions and comments today, and thank you for the automotive teachers as well. This recording will be made available before the end of today. I'll put it up on the CTE public drive, and in case any of your students missed it, we'll be sure to email that out to anybody. If you have any other questions or concerns, though, feel free to reach out to me, reach out to your teachers, and we can follow up with you. So again, thank you, Keith Kerman. Thank you, Eric Richardson. Thank you for the partnership that we have with DCAS. And thank you for all of the students who participated today. Have a wonderful rest of your school semester, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you all.
Thank all of you. Thank your teachers for letting us do this. Have a great day.